Well, hey, it's Dan Wilt here, and I'm so glad you could join in on this seminar, How to Lead Worship for Baptisms, Baby Dedications, Special Holidays, and Events. This is part of the Essentials in Worship Toolkit series, and I'd love if you even took a moment now to head over to danwilt.com. If you sign up on the email list there, you'll get a great free download, and then occasionally, I'll send you free downloads, other resources like this that I hope will encourage you, support you in your worship leadership or in your worship ministry life as part of a team. Also, we'll send worship team devotionals and other pieces that I think will really encourage you in the journey. So let's dig right in. How to lead worship for baptisms, baby dedications, special holidays, and events. Well, how do we lead worship in a unique way for big days and special events that might be different than a Sunday morning? And there's a reason I've put all these events together, and it's because there are principles that overarch all these types of events that I want to be able to draw on as a foundation as we touch each of the five that we're going to touch. So just to say this, preparing sets for big days and special events, it should be approached differently than preparing a standard Sunday morning worship set. So here are some thoughts on how to lead worship for these five events. Number one, baptisms. 2, baby dedications. 3, outreach events. 4, Mother's Day / holidays or special days. And then 5, conferences and retreats. And there's a reason I've kind of put them together this way. So let's just go one by one. Let's talk about baptisms. Baptism is a day of celebration. It's been an important, vital part of church history for thousands of years. It's the wedding of a soul to God. It's a celebration of Christ's inbreaking in a life, Christ's pursuit of a life, and that life responding to his all-enduring, all-consuming, already active love for that individual. So it's a very special day for the person. Often they invite other people who they want to celebrate, some of whom are believers, some of whom aren't. And we can simply go back to this marker that the early church understood baptism to be a celebration. So baptism should be a time of extravagant joy for us in our day today. Select songs that give people a reason to rejoice when you're planning your set. Depending on your church's traditions, there might be people in attendance who have never entered your church's doors before. So we can use that opportunity to bring in worship elements that might connect those people with the story of your community. You might even be able to say a few things that show people the story of your community. Hymns like Amazing Grace and other familiar songs, they might not have heard it in a church, but they might have heard it on television or someone sing it at some event. Try to find pieces like that that can build a bridge to worship for a visitor. It can make them feel included, part of the worship experience, rather than on the outside looking in. Now let me say something here. And this theme runs through all of the events we're going to talk about. The worship leader must see herself or himself as a host. A host gives hospitality. A host provides words, phrases that make you feel welcome, make you feel like you're seen, that you're present in the room. We don't just carry on like, hey, this is my normal church congregation, so I'm going to do all the in-house language that I usually do and hope it works for everyone. No, a worship pastor, a worship leader, people who are speaking in microphones, we can speak with hospitality so that people feel welcome. When they feel welcome and invited and known, and I don't mean singled out, but I mean like you say something like, well, some of you have never been here before. It's great to have you with us. We worship for this long. We express our heart through songs. And if you know these songs, that's wonderful. But if you don't, it's okay. You can sing or not sing, but make these words prayers of yours because we really believe that God meets with us in these songs as we sing. And I deeply believe you're going to find connecting points with people through just simple phrases like that. That took me less than a minute, and it simply says, we're aware that you're here. And it helps people enter into worship. So, baptism, focus on the presence of God. Let's go to baby dedications. Again, sharing of joy and thanking God for this unique little life that's entered our lives, for the family around them, for the friends, for the community that's around them, in helping to grow them up in the faith. So, baby dedications are another unique opportunity to lead worship. And in larger churches, you can have a lot of children being dedicated. You can, in smaller churches, have just one child being dedicated. Either way, those Sundays can go many different directions, but usually there are people there grandparents, extended family, siblings, aunts, uncles, others who are connected to that family who attend because they love the child and they love the family. Some will come from different traditions and faith backgrounds. Others will have no faith background, might be completely unchurched altogether, might be, even in a wild life. And God is wanting to meet with them, and we can help do some things by creating a softened ground in worship. So as with baptism, we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate that God has given the gift of a life to us. That matters to people. Again, be hospitable. Celebrate with hospitality. Maybe a few guests might know those familiar, accessible hymns. Think about interweaving those in your set. And in a baby dedication setting, I love to select songs that celebrate God's gift of life, both human life and creation's life around us, that thank Him for His good gifts and give people words to do that. So make Thanksgiving at a baby dedication a primary key theme in your worship set and how you build it. Okay, outreach events. Let's go to this unique type of event. Again, hosting, hospitality, the theme continues. Outreach events can take many forms. Many different churches have many different philosophies and perspectives on these. So I'm going to try to touch a few of them, and I'm hoping that I'll touch the kinds of events your church might do where musicians might be involved or worship might be involved. Your church might give away turkeys at Thanksgiving. I know churches that do that. You might be having an outdoor celebration for your city. Maybe it's a joint church service, or maybe it's just you guys making some great music to draw people in or to connect with people. Maybe you're going into coffee houses, cafes, event venues, etc., as an expression of your church life. I know a church right now that sets up, does a whole talent night, basically, lots of music for the community to come to, just to gather and connect as human beings. They don't feel a need to do outreach specifically. They just want to share the story of their community and have some friendly people meeting people, right? So I always think in these about high energy, celebration, passionate worship, especially if they're outdoor. It's very difficult to get very intimate in tone outdoor unless you've got a killer sound system and some great musicians doing some really special intimate moments. Often the bigger band, my experience has been, works for drawing people. Or some great acoustic music, again, great sound and really solid musicianship. So bring in songs you know. If you're doing a worship set, you might want to mix it up a little bit. Different churches have different philosophies about integrating cultural music and songs within their sets. I always felt very free to do that. Many times those were gathering points. I love people laughing and singing the song together, etc. And it just creates a great connecting point. So I always felt free to do those things. And you're looking for playful moments with kids, things that catch their ear, non-offensive themes, explicitly offensive themes, unless that's the point of your outreach. It's a justice outreach. It's a challenging outreach. That might be what you do. Some worship leaders need to lead outreach events in other languages. I've led many worship sets in Portuguese, because where I used to be the worship pastor, we had about 25% of our population was Portuguese speaking. And so that was fun. That was unique, but it was outdoor. I still looked for celebration. I looked for connecting points. No matter the outreach event, each one gives an opportunity for worship leaders to learn how to lead in a unique setting. And I would often bring in musicians and bring out musicians that I wouldn't normally maybe have playing on a Sunday, so I could create the kind of dynamic that I like. That's where I've always looked at our worship community not just being who is in the church. I look at our worship community being the network of relationships we have with musicians, with creative people, with artists in our area, and it really has built community and even brought people into our church in different settings. And they come to church not because we want to connect them with our church, but because we want to connect them with Jesus, who is the only one who can transform. But they have a better chance in some cases hearing his story and his love within our context of our church. So the higher the energy, more pumping the sound system, more musical colors, aesthetics that are involved, the more well done, the more rehearsal that goes into it, the more recognizable many of the songs are that are used, the more readily you'll connect people at outreach events to your faith community. Okay, just some thoughts there on outreach events. Number 4, Mother's Day and holidays. It's interesting that I said it this way because Mother's Day has a uniqueness even that Father's Day doesn't have, though there's something there. You probably heard that when I think it was Hallmark or some greeting card company went into prisons, they couldn't give away cards on Father's Day, but the cards on Mother's Day just went, just crazy because so many people were connecting with their mother. There's something, that's unique in some people's lives related to Mother's Day, and I want to use that as a bit iconic of some of the emotions that can come along with it. Though Father's Day also comes with this, and some other holidays might. So here are the thoughts. Create accessible moments for special holidays. Mother's Day and other special holidays can be very particular in their tone. There might be people in attendance who aren't regular attenders. Others are there who are actually looking for a faster paced service so they can get with their family or go do something else the rest of the day, enjoying time with mothers or with fathers or whatever they're there for, Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. So what I want to say is people are in different states of emotion as they focus on these special holidays that come around yearly. Some may have lost someone dear to them. That's often true on Mother's and Father's Day. Others might be challenged over their current relationship with a parent or sibling. Others might just be feeling light and joyful, the kids with a parent or whatever it is. Be aware of that, and be aware, Mother's Day again, iconic for this, that there are a lot of emotions, especially I found even on Mother's Day among women. Because some may have wanted to be mothers and couldn't be. There could be pain in relationships, but some have been mothers and lost children. There's all sorts of dynamics there that similar for fathers, but it's different for mothers and for the women in that day. So again, it's just iconic to say, be aware of the room. Be a good, gracious host. Say things that aren't hurtful or not thought out because you're just insecure and saying stuff in front of a congregation. You've seen leaders do that. Think well about what you're saying. And you can, in one sentence or two sentences, disarm. Say, we know this is a day of great celebration. We want to celebrate mothers here. We also know that for some, there are points of pain. And here's what worship is. It's a moment where we get to meet with God and give Him our joy and thankfulness as well as our points of pain. And He can minister to us in that by His Holy Spirit. Saying little things like that goes a long way with people. It goes a long way with older people, younger people, people who are in different states and stages of life. So think about that for Mother's Day, for Father's Day. Think about creating these accessible moments to connect with people who may have a difficulty drawing near to God in worship. For other holidays, I try to think about matching the theme with a biblical theme. Different churches think differently about even Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. There's especially differing perspectives on civic holidays like an Independence Day in your particular nation or cultural holidays and festivals. Here's the way I think about it. I think, what can I do in this set that connects us with the biblical idea? So I'm just going to use Independence Day for a nation as one example. Some churches feel really free to use national songs and all that. That's never been a thing that I've done. What I love is saying freedom's on everyone's mind today. The freedom we have in Christ, I'm going to see if I can find ways to celebrate that we are part, beyond our nation, we are citizens of heaven. We are followers of Christ the King first. And I just celebrate that there's freedom in that and how He frees a soul and what He does. And if I can find songs that do that celebrate that we're not slaves to our fears, slaves to our desires. We're not slaves to all these things. We have been set free from death. We've been set free from our own brokenness. We've been set free to become whole. We've been given second chances. I look for those themes that cross and I build on it. Now, for themes like Christmas and other holidays, I say anchor into songs. Don't skip over them. But anchor into songs that people might know and want to sing. Season your set with that because they're great bridge building points. They're great connecting points for people. It matters to them. It gives rise to a corporate sound in the room. Recognize also that as you do these sets on holidays, people might have other things on their mind, like when can we go to lunch? We've got a reservation. We're doing this. We want to get home to this, etc. I actually think about that as a worship leader, and I will shorten my set on that day just to do my part to make it a tighter service. I don't mind doing that. I think it's a great gesture as a leader. I think it's just being aware that there are precious things going on, and what's going on in this room is not the only thing or the most precious thing that will ever happen. God is active in those lunch times, in those picnics, in those gatherings around a Christmas tree, in those gatherings, on New Year's or whatever it might be. So just be aware of these things. And finally, or not finally, but idea number 4, conferences and retreats. Let me just see something here. Yeah, I accidentally didn't name that number 4. Sorry about that. Create unity. This is idea 5. Create unity with well-known songs at conferences and retreats. Conferences usually allow for extended musical worship times. A worship leader can build out a wider set, have more diversity in their set, flow. As worship leaders, we're always thinking about who is in this room. Why did they come to this retreat? Why have they gathered? What churches and traditions are represented? What's the goal of this event? And then we guide toward that theme. If it's an interfaith, inter-church gathering, we might want to consider what songs or hymns a contemporary church or a conservative, and by conservative, I simply mean in terms of their worship style, their worship practice, their routines, the way they do their worship rhythms, that they both would know. I'm looking for those songs. I remember leading at a conference that was an inter-church conference, and man, it was a little weak until I hit that song that everyone knew, and it just roared in worship. And then I went into something they moderately knew, or at least some did, and they had more faith and energy to enter into that song because of what had just happened. Build on those moments. What songs will cause the congregation to sing loud and strong, stirring a sense of unity? What's more important, that they all hear my new latest song, or that they walk away saying, I don't know what it was, but I just felt in such unity with everyone who was at that conference. There were such sweet times of just catharsis, the Holy Spirit moving, us surrendering to His presence. And, choose those songs. They're important for those kind of events. And I will sacrifice my preferences and tastes, the band's cool arrangement, to get to those moments. I will do it every time. So conferences aren't like a normal Sunday morning. More rehearsal can go into them. Expand the worship experience with some fresh ideas you might not have time to add in a shorter Sunday set. Retreats are even different from that. I've done a seminar on arranging for a small band that I think will be really helpful with some fresh ideas as to how to think about it. But let me just give a little synopsis here. Retreats, on the other hand, I find best done if they're acoustically driven. If there's a sense of we in the room rather than us and them. As soon as you put up sound systems, as soon as you start putting up speakers, as soon as you get up front, as soon as you do those things, you start to create an us and them experience. So you want to minimize that as best as you can, even with the shape of the room. I'm a big fan of circles and semicircles so people can see each other. I'm a big fan of the musicians being among and feeling more integrated with the room when you can. Can't always do it, but when you can, I think it's really cool, really helpful. Be thinking about instrument choices. A guitar or piano has this energy level. You add a cajon, it goes to this energy level. The simple adding of a cajon, and I say that over a djembe with its big resonant sounds, which works, but it's too big in my view for retreats often. And I don't even love the tone as much as that cajon that almost mimics a drum kit. You've got the bass, you've got the snare sort of sound. It's a beautiful box, and someone sits on it and plays it. It just takes the energy level up when you do more celebratory songs. I encourage you, if you just have one instrument, see if you can add a second and add a cajon. And then I start to season it, maybe a violin, something special that just takes us a different place, makes that set unique and special. So think unplugged. The energy level can rise with shakers, etc. Make sure the majority of the set in retreats is made up of songs people know. There's less grace for the unknown and hardly anyone singing with you, right? I try to really make the lion's share of the set of songs people know, and then I add other elements that season the set, like readings or prayers or moments that I've pre-orchestrated. So try at least one idea the next time you do one of these events, the next time you meet to prep for them. Connect guests to your worship experience by building a set of joyful, passionate music. Lace in elements that will share your community story. Be aware of people who need help engaging. Incorporate popular or well-known songs that will build unity at conferences and retreats. And use the instruments you have available to create an atmosphere that bridges the gap between a more contemporary environment or a more worship styling, conservative, or liturgical types of congregations. Find those elements that bridge the gaps and use them. It won't just be music. It might be communion. It might be some of the words and prayers that you choose to use. So again, I'd love to send you a free download. If you go over to danwilt.com, just sign up on the email list. I'll make sure that I only send you helpful tools. I won't overuse or over communicate. I just want to be able to get some free resources out to you, send you some worship team devotionals here and there, and then let you be aware of some special things that are coming out and coming up. So again, thanks for listening. I hope this was an encouragement. If so, I'd love to see a comment below or a comment over on the Facebook page. Okay, thanks again for joining in. And again, I hope you are encouraged as you lead worship for baptisms, baby dedications, special holidays, and events. Thanks for listening.